grand route de potentiel. Jusqu'à Messenger, avec le sol dans Messenger, c'est impressionnant.
A violent storm has battered Germany, causing strong winds, torrential rain and widespread disruption north from the North Sea to Bavaria. The system, one of the most intense of the season, was uprooted trees, torn up roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people without power. In Hamburg and Bremen, storm surge flooded riverside neighborhoods and emergency crews rushed to build buried as the Elbe River overflowed. In Berlin, fallen trees blocked major roads in the train lines, forcing communities to find alternative roads. Munich International Airports reported more than 100 cancelled flights, while trains in Bavaria and Saxony were halted due to the debris in tracks. Authorities confirmed multiple fatalities, including driver crushed by the fallen trees and the rescue workers swept away by the floodwaters. Dozens of people were injured by many debris flying through the city center. Hospital reported an increase in emergency admissions overnight. Residents described the storm as apocalyptic. The wind sounded like a freight train outside my window. We were building and shaking, said Anne Miller, a resident of Berlin.
Ajde, kapu meu.
Several European countries are assessing the damage after severe hailstorm swept across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction from France and Italy to Germany, Austria and Switzerland. The storm intensified the unstoppable air masses that collided over Central Europe, produced hailstones the size of a tennis ball that mashed a car, damaged roofs and injured hundreds of people. In northern Italy, cities in Lombardy and Veneto saw streets covered in ice, and hospital territory dozens and potting for cars in a heat injury caused by broken glass. In Bavaria, Germany, cars were left covered in dents and vineyards suffered catastrophic damage. It was like bombing, saying Hans Killer, a farmer's near Munich. In 10 minutes, our entire harvest were destroyed. Austria, also facing chaos in emergency service, responded to collapsed roofs and blocked highways. In Switzerland, tourists in Lorenz and Alps scalped dramatic footage in hailstorms, spilled it up like snowdrifts, transformed summer landscape in winter owns. Flights in Zurich and Geneva airports were delayed and cancelled after hail-damaged parked planes. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the collisions between the Mediterranean air and the cold northern front, exacerbating the recorded summer heat across Europe. Scientists warn that climate change is contributed to more frequent and destructive hailstorms and in the continent growing climate-related problems. Agriculture has been hit hardest, heat damaged estimates of hundreds and millions of euros. Vineyard, orange and cornfield across Central Europe has been destroyed, threatening both in local economy and a food supply chain. Insurance companies are already preparing for one of the most expensive weather events in the year. Government has promised to provide assistance and clean up on the aftermath and the initial disaster by sending soldiers in a rural area to clear roads and protect damaged homes from the further rain. However, for the many residents, the storm was stuck remaining in the increasing severity of extreme weather events. In Germany, the state of Bavaria and North Rhine-Westphalia were hit hard. Rail service were suspended in several regions after fallen trees damaged overhead lines, with the schools remaining closed in precipitation. Deutsche Bahn warning passengers in significant delays in cancellation. Meteorologists attribute the extreme weather and deep Atlantic low-pressure system golden with the unstoppably warm continental air and volatile mix and intensified the storm power. Dr. Elena Richer from the European Climate Observatory stated, "We are witness more frequent and violent weather patterns to shift atmospheric circulated linking to climate change. The storm also caused coastal surge in Netherlands and Belgium. The authority reinforcing flood a barrier out along the vulnerable zone. In Amsterdam, channels overflowing, forcing evacuation in low-lying districts. Airports across Europe, including Frankfurt, Paris channels, and Madrid, Bercia, reported flight cancellation and diversions, extended thousands of traveling overnight." Several metro stations were forced to close after water cascaded down, stairways were portions of rap line were suspended, at least 14 flights were delayed or diverted on Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports, and again about 114 km on our battered runway. The 11 tower safety lights temporarily shut down due to the electrical surge in the 17th around this section of scaffolding for the nearby structure, cities collapsing on the streets. Miraculously, no fatalities were reported. 35 people were injured, including 2 firefighters. Paris Major Ana Hidalgo called on an emergency meeting early Wednesday, urging calm to promises with restoration efforts. Our infrastructure, who pushed to the limits, she said. These events once again demonstrated the urgent need to climate adaptation in urban areas. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most intense connective systems in decades, caused by the collisions in a humid Mediterranean air with a cold front swept in the Atlantic. This class generation is supercell system production extreme lighting activity to flash flooding across central France. Across social media, dramatic footage showed hail blanket sidewalks like a snow, bases standing in rising water and a lightning bolt sinking near the egg dead termite. A sudden and severe hailstorm swept across southern Poland, leaving scene of destruction in its wake and prompted urgent calls to help. The storm, which struck on a Monday evening, battered town and villages with a hailstone the size of walnuts, smashing windows, damaged cars and distorted crops in the middle of the harvest season. Farmers in the Motopolska and Podkampasia region reported catastrophic losses. In the 10 minutes, everything he had worked in the year was destroyed, said Porent Novak, a farmer from the near Tarnow. The fields looked and someone had chopped them up with a knife. Agriculture representative estimated hundreds of hectares of corn, potatoes and orange have been destroyed, with the could lead higher food prices in the coming month. Residents described chaos and the hail-pounded roofs and a blanket drain caused sudden flooding in the city streets. Emergency service responded to hundreds of calls, and a fire crews worked through the night, including debris and secure damaged homes. Fortunately, no deaths were reported, although several people suffered minor injuries from the broken glass. Local authorities are assessing the damage with estimated to be tens of millions of euros. The Polish Meteorological Institute was warned for the Celtic cold more storms in the coming days are unstoppable weather continue to prevail in Central Europe. Climatologists note in the frequency of such extreme weather events increasing. Hailstorm of this intensity used to be a rare phenomenon, but climate change is affecting weather conditions across the continent, said Dr. Marta Zelinska and the climatologist of University of Warsaw. For many, recovery will be long and difficult. We will build everything, but it seems that nature is tasting other more year, said resident Anna Kowalska, standing near the destroyed greenhouse. Saragossa, the capital of Spain, Aragon region, was hit by catastrophic flooding after continuous rainfall caused the Ebro River in these tributaries and burst their banks. According to the official sources, more than 118 millimeters of rainfall in 36 hours, a record for the last decade. Entire neighborhoods along the river were flooded, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate and rescue teams using boats to reach residents who were trapped. Schools and businesses remained closed, and authorities converted the sports hail into temporary shelters for the families left homeless. At least 3 people were confirmed dead, and dozens of injured in the traffic incidents and building collapsing related for the floods. In the city center, cars floated along flooded boulevards and underground parking lot and the sideway station were filled in water in a matter of minutes. Rail service in Aragon was suspended, and a highway connecting Saragossa, Madrid, and Barcelona were closed after landslides buried sectors on the road. Local residents described the sense of apocalypse. In just half an hour, water poured into the streets like a river. We lost everything in the first floor, said Maria Lopez, whose family home in the Actor districts was flooded. Farmers across Aragon have also suffered devastation. Losers flooded wheat fields, vineyards and livestock farms, threatening malt and harvest and livelihood. The economic damage is already estimated of tens of millions of euros. Insurance companies are prepared for the wave of insurance class. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has promised immediate aid and emergency support, stressing that the community will be left without help. A powerful wave of hailstorm has battered several parts of Europe, leaving communities struggled with the damage, disruption and shock. The severe weather-struck countries including Italy, France, Germany and Switzerland were hailstorms the size of a golf ball. In the same areas, even larger fell in devastation force. In northern Italy, vineyards in Lombardy and Veneto were shattered, with the farmers reported crops losers of up to 18%. It's heartbreaking, said vineyard Gula Benager, severing the roof of destroyed vines. A whole year work lost in 15 minutes. France also suffered widespread chaos. In Lyon and Dijon, streets turned white into hail-blanket cars and black drains, caused sudden flash floods. Motorways were brought in standstill, and authorities reported dozens of incidents and drivers struggled with the ice conditions. In southern Germany, roofs were smashed and a window shattered, particularly in Bavaria, where emergency crews responded to thousands of calls within hours. Paris, France, the hit of a European most iconic city through the interdisary as a violent overnight storm battered Paris and surrounding suburbs, leaving behind the trail of destruction rarely seen in modern times. The fire and tempest driven by the deep Atlantic pressure system unleashed torrential rainfall, different thunder and hurricane-force winds, plunged parts of the capital in the darkness and the chaos. According to the Meteo of France, Paris endured record-breaking rainfall, more than 16 millimeters in just 4 hours, flooding entire districts including said German Dispel, Baseline and Latic Water. The city again drainage networks struggled to cope, tuning cobblestone streets into fast-moving rivers. It was terrifying, said Claire Depoux, who lives near Jared Lyon. Within minutes, water was knee-deep. Cars were flooding. The lighting was so bright it felt like it drying for a second. Authorities reported over 1,800 emergency calls, with firefighters rescuing dozens trapped in the basements and underground car park. We are dealing with a widespread roof damage and power outage, said Bavarian Fire Chief Markus Keller, who described the situation as apocalyptic. In southern France, vineyard and orange severely damaged, with some region reported a total loss of crops. Farmers in province of Rhône-Alpes region experienced a disaster after huge hailstones destroyed their vineyards. The storm took everything. Laminate Windmark Palt Gerard, the harvest we have been waiting for all year, is gone. In Central and Eastern Europe, hailstorm intensified. In Poland, the city of Krakow was hit by torrential rain, with freezing rain that flooded streets and damaged cars. In Austria, large hailstones caused flights, delays and forced airports at the close temperatures. Meteorologists attributed this storm weather is unstable atmospheric layers, which are intensified due to global warming. Europe is now experiencing thermoconnective storms, phenomena accompanied by supercell lightning and giant hailstorms, explained Dr. Petra Long in European Meteorological Observatory. This is not a longer rarity, is becoming part of new normal. Authorities across the continent continue to assess the damage, warning the further determination in weather conditions, while cleanup crews work to repair the damage caused by the ice storm. Many residents describe the surreal scene. Summer streets transformed into winter landscape in a matter of minutes. A series of powerful hailstorms swept across Europe, causing chaos, destruction, and dramatic scenes from Italy to Germany, France, and Croatia. The storm intensified the collision of the most Mediterranean air and the cold front moving from the north brought the Gulf-sized hailstorms. Strong winds and torrential rain disrupted transport, agriculture, and daily life in several countries. In northern Italy, the region in Lombardy and Emilia-Romagna were worst affected. A road turned wide and the hailstorm blackened crosses in a minute, smashed car wide shift, and destroyed it vineyard and crops. It sounded like a shot of the roof, say Marco Rossi, a resident of Bologna, describing the definite noise of a cave pounding its house. Meanwhile, in southern Germany, emergency service responded to hundreds of calls when powerful supercell storm hit Bavaria. Roofs were damaged, trees were uprooted, and train service were temporarily suspended. In Munich, trams and buses were suspended after the ice blocked tracks. We haven't seen such large hailstorms in many years, said meteorologist Anna Weber of the German Meteorological Service. In France of the storm front caused chaos in a Rhode Alps region, where dramatic footage showed hail covering fields like snow.
Snowing. 4th of May.
Powerful storms swept across France, caused destructive wind, torrential rain, and widespread flooding that left millions of people homeless. Authorities say it's one of the most severe weather events in the country in recent years. The Atlantic coast was hardest hit by the storm, with the wind gusts reaching 116 km/h in the Brittany and Normandy. Streets were littered, the fallen trees, roofs were torn off, houses and boats crashed into the harbour wall. It was one of the sea wanted to swallow the city, said fisherman Alain Dupont from the St. Malo, describing the waves crashing about the pier. Paris was not spared either. Heavy rain overwhelmed the capital drainage system, flooding parts of the metro and forcing passengers at the west through the neck-deep water. Emergency service responded to more than 700 calls across the country in just 24 hours. Power outage affected nearly 500,000 people, particularly in the western region, and utility companies working around the clock to restore service. The Spanish region of Valencia has been hit by a severe storm that has brought torrential rain, violent winds and severe flooding, leaving streets submerged and continues gradually to recover. Meteorologists say a system filled the most shoe by Mediterranean dumped more than 200 mm of rain in just 24 hours, one of the most intense downpour in decades. Entire neighborhoods in the city of Valencia were left underwater, and the residents were forced to wade through waist-deep water. Emergency service carried out hundreds of rescue, including drivers trapped in submerged cars and families evacuated from ground floor apartments. At least 4 fatalities have been confirmed, while dozens of people have been injured by falling debris and traffic incidents. The part of Valencia where the barriers in Europe was temporarily closed after rain that knocked down by strong winds disrupted shipments across the Mediterranean. Public transport was brought in a standstill, subway lines were suspended, flights were diverted, and rail service were cancelled throughout the region. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept throughout the parts of Germany, France and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured, with the homes destroyed, cars overturned and power lines down it. Western Germany was the hardest hit by the powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area, poured down, injured dozens of people and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a faint rain rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado struck near Calais, overturned trucks and the A18 motorway and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in hail, lightning and stones when battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic, still recent from the devastating tornado in 2021, reported another several storms in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency services rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers walking through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mass of hot Mediterranean air collided with a cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries suffered serious damage. Rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors formed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe begins the long process of recovery, the tornado several stuck reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now processes to crawl through to here to the continent. A wave of intense hailstorms swept across Europe, leaving behind broken roofs, destroyed groups and devastating communities from Italy to Germany, France and Poland. Meteorologists describe the event as one of the strongest hailstorms in the recent year, caused the collisions of hot southern air and a fast-moving cold front that swept across the continent. In Italy, especially the areas around Rome and Emilia-Romagna, the storm was accompanied by thunderstorm winds and hailstones the size of walnuts, which pelted cars and roofs and a thunderstorm roar. In a matter of seconds, it was winter, said local residents Luca DeSantis. The streets turned white, we could hardly see anything. Several motorists were stranded off ice-blocked drainage system, flooded tunnels and city roads. Further north in Bavaria, Germany, the storm caused chaos in communities near the Munich and Augsburg. Cars were damaged, roads were uprooted and public transport was halted. Local authorities received more than 1,200 emergency calls in a few hours. Ile-de-France region, bringing hurricane-force winds, torrential rain and intense lightning that lit up the Parisian skyline. When our iconic boulevards were transformed into rivers, metro stations were flooded and thousands were left without electricity. According to Meteo France, when the gusts exceeded 120 km/h in a part of the capital, with more than 16 mm of rain fell in just 3 hours, an amount normally seen over several weeks. The Seine River rose rapidly and water poured in unprecedented to underground car park near the city center. I feel like the sky exploded, said Marie Larrier, a resident of Monterreal district. It was a thunder every few seconds, window shaking and water gushing through the streets like a waterfall. Emergency service received over 1,200 calls during the night, rescuing driving trapped inside major tunnels and responded to multiple reports of fallen trees. In the 15th arrondissement, the large earth collapsing out parked vehicles were parts of the Champs-Élysées were perilously closed due to debris. Southern Germany has been hit by relating after a violent hailstorm battered Bavaria, shattered with windows, damaged rooftops, and leaving residents tainted by the scale of destruction. The storm swept across the region with little warning, unleashing hailstones the large of a tennis ball. Streets in Munich, Augsburg, and surrounding towns were carpeted in ice, with the cars were left dented with white shifts smashed. It was like gunfire from the sky, said Klaus Richer, a resident of Augsburg. A hospital treated dozens of people to their cars burst and hit injuries. Children and elderly were most affected, with the emergency responded rushing to provide shelter in a school and a sports hall in the rural area. The storm was equally devastated. Groups of borzoi, maize, and a vineyard across Bavaria were pumped, with the farmers reported losses that could total tens of millions of euros. Transport ground to the hail, trains were delayed, the stock were blocked, fallen branches and debris were fighted from Munich airport were disrupted due to damaged aircraft and poor visibility. Highway torn hazards with a multiple accidents caused the slippery and ice-covered roads. Tourists were also cut off in the chaos. Visitors to Neuschwanstein Castle and Bavaria, farmers Alpine village showed a dramatic image for the hail building up for the snowdrifts, with local accompanied the summer storm to the winter blizzard. Meteorologists explained that the hailstorm was triggered by unstoppable air masses, colliding the southern Germany, intensified by record summer heat. Climate experts warn that extreme hail events are becoming more frequent across the Europe, pressing homes, agriculture, and infrastructure under increasing threat. A powerful Atlantic storm swept across much of Europe, bringing hurricane-force winds, torrential rain, and chaos in several countries, from the Atlantic coast of France and inland cities in Germany. Millions of people forced transport disruption, and emergency service worked at full capacity. In France, wind gusts exceeded 115 km/h, knocked down trees, cut power to more than 400,000 homes, and forced several airports to close. It sounded like a fire train was passing through our streets, said Louis Martin, the residents of Brittany, where routes are blocked overnight. Southern Germany was hit by severe flooding when rivers burst at their banks. In Bavaria, rescue evacuated dozens of residents by boat after the local dam threatened to overflow. "We never seen the water rise too fast," explained Firefighters. Karl Neumann, rail service in the region remains severely disrupted. In the Netherlands, authorities temporarily closed its section to famous Afsluitdijk dam due to fear and a coastal wave. Meanwhile, Poland and Czech Republic reported widespread hailstorm that severely damaged cars and groups.